Comfort feels safe. But that's the biggest lie most people are living under. It's the illusion of safety that keeps you locked in a version of life that was never meant to last. See, comfort is seductive. It tells you that you're okay where you are. It tells you not to rock the boat. It tells you to be grateful for what you've got and stop chasing more. And while gratitude is powerful when it's used as an excuse to stop growing, it becomes a prison dressed up like peace. People say things like, I don't want to take risks, or I'm just trying to be content. But let's be honest, contentment and complacency are not the same thing. One is a posture of faith. The other is a product of fear. Most folks aren't staying still because they've reached peace. They're staying still because they're scared. Scared of failure, scared of judgment, scared of stepping into a bigger version of themselves, because they know that requires work, vulnerability, and change. But here's the truth: what feels safe is often what's stopping your success. Comfort is a killer. It's like a warm blanket in a freezing room. It feels good for a moment, but it doesn't fix the fact that the thermostat is broken. It just makes you numb to the fact that you're in an environment that's slowly shutting down your potential. It keeps you cozy, but it also keeps you small. Comfort is the trap that stops you from writing the book you've had in your heart for 5 years. It's the reason your business idea is still on the shelf. It's the voice that says, not now, every time opportunity knocks. It's why you won't go live on camera, won't pitch your services, won't apply for that job, won't move to the next city, won't invest in yourself. Comfort talks you out of movement. And no movement means no momentum. We are creatures of habit, and the comfort zone is built on repetition. It's where you do what's familiar even when it doesn't serve you. You wake up, you go to a job you tolerate, you come home, you binge distraction, and then you do it again. And the more familiar something becomes, the more your brain calls it safe. Even if it's slowly draining the life out of you, your potential becomes a distant possibility instead of a living reality. Comfort doesn't just stop you from stepping forward. It makes you forget you even have somewhere to go. It blinds you from vision. You stop dreaming big because big dreams make you uncomfortable. You stop believing for more because believing requires hope. And hope is risky. It might not work out. You might get hurt. You might fail. So you trade passion for predictability and end up stuck in cycles that were never meant to hold you. But what you call playing it safe is often just choosing to survive instead of choosing to thrive. Safety has become the idol. Security has become the ultimate goal. And yet security without purpose is just existence. You weren't created for mere existence. You were created to live a life of impact, abundance, and purpose. But purpose requires pressure. Purpose requires progress. Purpose requires pushing through discomfort. And here's what they don't tell you. The longer you stay in your comfort zone, the harder it becomes to leave. Not because the door is locked, but because your belief shrinks. Comfort eats away at confidence. Every day you delay, you tell yourself the lie that you're not ready. And that lie compounds. 1 day becomes 1 year. 1 year becomes 5. And soon you don't just forget the dream. You forget you were even made for more. Comfort also surrounds you with people who are just like you. People who are also afraid, also playing it safe, also shrinking. You start mistaking their approval for alignment. But comfort doesn't attract greatness. It attracts agreement. Agreement with limitation. Agreement with mediocrity. Agreement with excuses. And if you stay in that environment long enough, you'll start calling small whys and calling fear humility. There's nothing humble about burying your gift. There's nothing noble about shrinking your light so others feel better. But that's what the comfort zone demands. It asks you to lower your standards, dull your drive, and pretend that average is acceptable, just so you don't have to feel the tension of growth. Comfort doesn't care about your calling. It just wants you quiet, it just wants you still. It wants you passive. It wants you out of the fight. And too many people don't even realize they've already surrendered. Not to defeat, but to ease. To what feels good, what feels predictable, what feels safe. But safe isn't the goal. Growth is. And you cannot grow where you are not challenged. You cannot evolve without exposure. You cannot rise without resistance. Comfort is the counterfeit of calling. It tricks you into believing that stillness equals stability. But real stability is built through strength, and strength only comes through struggle. Most people walk around thinking fear is their enemy. They think fear is what's holding them back, when in reality, fear is just a signal. Fear is just information. Fear shows up when you're about to do something different, something bigger, something outside of what you've done before. But fear can't stop you unless you agree with it. What really stops you, what quietly kills more dreams than fear ever could, is familiarity. Familiarity is dangerous because it doesn't feel like an enemy. It feels like home. It's comfortable. It's routine. It's safe. But just because something feels safe doesn't mean it's serving your purpose. Familiarity makes you think you're in control, but really it controls you. It keeps you walking the same path, having the same conversations, making the same choices year after year, expecting a different outcome, but getting the same result. Familiarity convinces you that staying the same is wisdom when it's actually fear in disguise. It tells you, at least you know what to expect. It tells you, don't mess up a good thing. It tells you, why take the risk when this is working just fine? But just fine isn't where purpose lies. Just fine is where potential goes to die. People don't miss their calling because of lack of talent, lack of opportunity, or lack of resources. Most people miss it because they get addicted to the familiar. They stay in environments that feed their history instead of their destiny. They keep going back to what's predictable because unpredictability feels like danger. But the truth is, if you only do what you've always done, you'll only get what you've always had. Growth demands change, and change demands disruption. That disruption doesn't come from fear alone. It comes from choosing to leave what's familiar, even when it's comfortable. And familiarity keeps you emotionally attached to expired seasons. You keep trying to breathe life into things that are already dead, just because they're familiar. You stay in relationships that drain you, jobs that bore you, mindsets that limit you, not because they're good, but because they're known. And the human mind will often choose the certainty of pain over the uncertainty of possibility. That's how powerful familiarity is. It makes people settle for dysfunction as long as it's the dysfunction they recognize. It's why people keep talking about change but never make it. They want the outcome of growth without the interruption of the process. But the process always involves letting go. You cannot hold on to comfort and chase calling at the same time. Familiarity creates a false sense of identity. You start to believe the story your environment told you. You start to live within the boundaries of what others expect of you. And before long, you're not even living your own life. You're just repeating a version of yourself that was shaped by your past, not your potential. Familiarity is a master of excuses. It will give you every reason in the world to stay where you are. It will use logic, practicality, and even spirituality to convince you that now isn't the time, that you don't have what it takes, that you're too old, too young, too late, early, too unqualified. But the truth is, none of that is the real issue. The real issue is you've gotten comfortable with where you are, even if it's not where you belong. And until you recognize the grip familiarity has on your life, you'll keep mistaking hesitation for wisdom and calling it discernment when it's really just delay. Potential is never found in places where pressure is absent. People want growth, but they don't want the grind. They want the promotion, but they don't want the preparation. They want the platform, but not the pressure that comes with it. What most don't realize is that pressure is not punishment. Pressure is proof that something inside you is expanding. It's the friction required to reveal the fullness of what you've been carrying. Pressure produces power, and potential is never unlocked without it. A seed doesn't sprout until it breaks. Gold isn't purified until it's put through fire. Diamonds are not created in calm, they're formed under extreme heat and pressure. There is no version of you becoming who you were born to be without a process that tests you. But here's the issue. Too many people quit the process because they confuse pressure with failure. They feel resistance and think it's a sign to stop when it's really a sign to push. They think tension means something is wrong, but tension often means something is working. Just like lifting weights muscle through resistance, life builds character, skill, wisdom, and clarity through pressure. The tension is not your enemy. It's your training ground. It's the preparation required for the promotion you're asking for. People want to be leveled up, but they don't want to be leveled. They want to rise, but they don't want to be reshaped. Potential is always hidden beneath layers of comfort, pride, fear, and assumption. You can't just speak it into existence. You've got to dig it out, and digging is hard. It's messy. It's slow. It doesn't always look good on the outside. But what it does is strip away everything that's unnecessary, so only the essential remains. Pressure makes you choose what matters. It eliminates the fluff. It forces you to confront what you've been avoiding. It calls out the excuses, the delays, the procrastination, and brings you face to face with discipline. There is something about being stretched that shows you your strength. When life squeezes you, what's inside comes out. If there's frustration, it shows up. If there's fear, it leaks out. If there's power, it starts to rise as it helps us. And you won't know what's inside until you're tested. You won't know what you're made of until pressure exposes what's real. That's why pressure isn't there to break you. It's there to build you. You just have to stop seeing pressure as a problem and start seeing it as a path. The challenge with pressure is that it demands a decision. It doesn't let you hide. It pushes you out of neutrality. It forces you to confront your identity and decide who you're going to be. Will you be the version of yourself that bows to convenience? Or will you be the version that steps into calling? Pressure reveals which version you're loyal to. The one that stays safe or the one that steps up, because both can't coexist. Potential will always require you to sacrifice the old self so the new one can rise. And that sacrifice is always uncomfortable. When you're under pressure, everything gets louder, doubts get louder, voices of past failure come back. The temptation to go back to what's familiar increases. But it's in those moments you find your foundation. You find out if your beliefs are rooted or if they were just ideas. Pressure will make you pray differently. Pressure will make you move differently. Pressure will either paralyze you or provoke you. And the difference isn't the pressure itself, but how you respond to it. The process of unlocking potential isn't just about reaching some external goal. It's about becoming the kind of person who can handle the weight of purpose. Potential is heavy. It demands integrity, focus, resilience, and grit. If you can't handle pressure, you can't handle purpose, because purpose will place demands on you. It will require consistency when you feel like quitting. It will ask for sacrifice when no one's watching. It will test your motives, stretch your faith, and refine your vision. You can't skip that part. You can't shortcut that development. You can't microwave mastery. Pressure also creates perspective. What once looked impossible now becomes preparation. What once felt like pain now becomes purpose. It teaches you not to waste hard seasons, not to despise difficult days, not to curse the climb. Because when you look back, you'll realize those were the moments that matured you. Those were the moments that taught you how to lead, how to persevere, how to keep your heart steady when everything was shaking. Helps us. You don't develop that kind of character in comfort. You develop it in pressure. That's the price of potential. That's the environment where destiny gets built. That's where greatness begins. The reason most people never experience transformation is because they never confront truth. They avoid it, soften it, dilute it, or dress it up to make it more palatable. But the truth, when unfiltered and unedited, is the very thing that sets you free. Not the version of truth that makes you feel good, the version that makes you shift. Truth is not there to comfort you. It's there to confront you. It doesn't cater to your convenience. It calls you to your next level. And the most power truth you'll ever face is that your current reality is a reflection of your decisions, not your potential. You are not stuck because the system is against you, because your boss doesn't like you, or because your past was hard. You're stuck because somewhere along the way you settled. You made a decision to stay in the middle. Not because that's where you belong, but because it's easier to survive there than to rise. It's easier to manage a mediocre life than to confront what needs to change. And until you face the truth about your habits, your excuses, your beliefs, your environment, you will stay locked in patterns that produce frustration instead of freedom. Truth is not emotional. It doesn't care about how long you've been struggling. It doesn't care about how good your reasons sound. It simply reflects what is. If you're broke, there's a reason. If you're frustrated, there's a cause. If you're overwhelmed, it's not just life happening. It's you responding the same way to life's challenges. And nothing will change on the outside until something changes on the inside. But change doesn't start with motivation. It starts with a moment of clarity where you stop blaming and start owning. That's what truth does. It forces you to stop pointing the finger outward and start looking inward. You cannot transform your life without transforming your thinking. You cannot transform your thinking without confronting your beliefs. And you cannot confront your beliefs unless you are willing to challenge the lies you've built your identity on. Some of those lies sound noble. They say things like, I'm just being realistic, or I'm not ready, or I don't want to be selfish. But under every one of those lies is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of success. The truth doesn't negotiate with fear. It exposes it. It shines a light on where you've allowed fear to write your story and demands that you take the pen back. What you tolerate, you endorse. And many people are endorsing dysfunction because they won't face the truth of their decisions. They say they want breakthrough, but keep feeding the habits that guarantee breakdown. They say they want peace, but won't let go of the people and patterns causing chaos. They say they want growth, but won't release the mindset that's keeping them small. The truth isn't convenient. It's disruptive. It won't wait until you're ready. It shows up when you're frustrated and says, "You've seen this movie before. You already know how it ends. So why are you still playing the same role?" Transformation begins where excuses end. You can't transform your life and protect your ego at the same time. You can't evolve and stay attached to who you were. The truth requires sacrifice. It requires you let go of the narrative that says you're a victim. It requires you to walk away from the identity that's been shaped by comfort, culture, or other people's opinions. The truth won't just make you free. It will make you new. But becoming new means you'll have to bury the old. That old mindset, that old story, that old circle, that old rhythm of playing small to stay liked, staying quiet to stay safe, or settling to stay accepted. The truth doesn't come to harm you. It comes to heal you. But healing doesn't feel like comfort. Healing feels like confrontation. It requires you to sit with what's real and choose to do something different. Not because you feel like it, but because you're done being deceived. When you finally get honest about where you are and how you got there, you create the possibility of something greater. That possibility doesn't live in the future. It lives in your next decision. And the truth shows up to make sure the decision is no longer based on delusion. You were never created to survive your life. You were created to master it. But mastery doesn't come from information. It comes from revelation. And revelation is simply the truth breaking through all the noise, all the excuses, all the distractions. It's the moment you wake up and realize you've been living beneath your design, as it helps us. It's the moment you stop negotiating with your limitations and start aligning with your potential. Discipline isn't a punishment. It's a pathway. It's not about restricting your life. It's about refining your life. People want to live on purpose. They want to experience freedom. They want to become powerful, but they don't want the structure that produces those outcomes. Everybody's asking for success, but very few are submitting to the process that sustains it. The reason so many never experience the fulfillment of their potential is not because they lack desire. It's because they lack discipline. And without discipline, even the most gifted person will stay average. Discipline is the difference between what you feel like doing and what your future requires you to do. It is the bridge between your intention and your transformation. Wanting change is emotional. Creating change is strategic. And strategy is built on habits, routines, priorities, and decisions that are often inconvenient. Discipline makes you choose your future over your feelings. It makes you act based on your assignment, not your appetite. It makes you put purpose above preference. And that's where most people fall off. Because preference feels good now, but purpose feels right later. Discipline says no to now so you can say yes to what's next. As it helps, there's a voice in you that wants greatness. That voice whispers when you're tired, when you're distracted, when you're tempted to take shortcuts. It reminds you that average isn't your destiny. But there's also another voice, the one that wants comfort, the one that's okay with excuses, the one that says, you've done enough. Discipline is the voice that decides which of those two wins. It's the repetition of choosing what's necessary over what's easy, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. Because real discipline isn't about performing for applause. It's about alignment with your calling. Your future is not shaped by what you occasionally do. It's shaped by what you consistently repeat. Discipline isn't sexy. It's not flashy. It doesn't get likes or claps, but it gets results. It builds endurance. It multiplies momentum. It carves character. Most people want microwave results with a crock-pot process, but transformation is slow cooked. It's built over time through repetition, through structure, through delayed gratification. And discipline is what makes that delay bearable. It gives you a target to aim for when your emotions try to pull you off course. Discipline is also how you develop trust with yourself. Every time you say you're going to do something, and then you actually do it, you're building integrity, not just with other people, with yourself. And self-integrity is the foundation of confidence. People talk about self-love, but self-love without self-respect is just emotional noise. You don't respect yourself because you talk nice to yourself. You respect yourself because you keep promises to yourself. And discipline is how those promises are kept. You don't become confident by accident. You become confident by consistently proving to yourself that you can be counted on. Without discipline, every goal remains a wish. Every dream stays stuck in your imagination. Every assignment God gave you sits dormant while life passes by. It's not enough to be inspired. It's not enough to be talented. It's not enough to have vision. Vision without discipline is delusion. It becomes a fantasy used to escape your reality instead of a blueprint you use to build a new one. Discipline turns that blueprint into bricks. It's the hammer. It's the shovel. It's the wheelbarrow. It's the sweat equity that turns ideas into impact. Discipline does the heavy lifting that motivation can't sustain as it helps us. Discipline also demands that you make decisions in advance. You don't wait until the moment of temptation to decide who you are. You decide before the pressure comes. You don't wait until the alarm goes off to decide whether you'll get up. You decide the night before. That's what champions do. They lead their lives. They don't follow their feelings. They make decisions from their vision, not their mood. And when your decisions are driven by vision, discipline becomes a habit, not a burden. There will always be a gap between where you are and where you could be. That gap doesn't close with prayer alone. It doesn't close with intention alone. It closes with aligned, consistent, disciplined action. That's how empires are built. That's how breakthroughs are sustained. That's how legacy is created. Not in the grand moments, but in the quiet repetitions, in the 5 a.m. choices, in the reps no one sees, in the sacrifices no one celebrates, us. Discipline is the work behind the scenes that produces the results everybody wants to clap for.